You're listening to Infinite TBR, the podcast where we try not to buy more books. I'm Smack.
And I'm Gabby. Spoiler alert! We're going to avoid major spoilers, and when we can, warn when we're going to discuss a particular book in detail so you can avoid that part of the episode. You can also check the show notes for time-stamped flags identifying potential spoilers.
Okay, now that we've arranged ourselves accordingly. First on our list, we promised last time that we would do something to celebrate our birthday.
/ anniversary.
/ anniversary.
I don't know which one we should go with. Birthday or anniversary?
I don't know.
It's the podcast's birthday, and it's our anniversary of starting the podcast. There we go.
So it's both.
Both is good.
I tried to figure out how to portmanteau it, and neither way was working
is that what,
very well.
You had this expression of thinking really hard for a second there.
I was like, birthversary, no.
And a day?
No.
And a day is not bad.
And a day isn't bad. Anywho, we promised to think of something.
Celebration.
Yes. So to celebrate our ITVR's and a day.
We're giving away $20 to the independent bookstore of your choice.
If you email us at itbrshelf@gmail.com or follow and tweet at us at InfiniteTBR with your favorite book of this year or
the name of the book of a book that we recommended that you enjoyed. So if you can do either of those things, by September 15th, you will be entered to win a $20 gift card. And if you don't have a favorite independent bookstore, we will default to Mysterious Galaxy.
Yes.
We will send you to our favorite.
Yes. And they do accept online orders.
Yes, that's true.
So that's not like a horrible deal, we swear. Next on our list, now we've gotten birthday anniversary nonsense out of the way. Birthday's done for another year.
Thank God.
Our number one fan, Laura, asked us a couple moons ago now.
It's been a while.
It's been
not super on top of things.
She pitched us a couple selections from the mid-year freakout book tag. One of those...
Like a hashtag mid-year freakout?
Maybe?
A hashtag called mid-year freakout?
I don't know how they work.
Okay.
There are these things that people who are more established than we are...
Are you trying to explain a hashtag?
Is it a hashtag?
I don't know, I never looked it up.
So...
You're better at...
My understanding is that this is like a list of prompts and questions that people send out and like booktubers and podcasters go through and answer them.
Okay.
But they're long lists. Right. So if we were on top of things, this is they do one at the beginning of the year and one mid-year freak out book tag.
Okay. So we're a little late.
We're a little late and also clearly don't 100% understand how the process works.
Thank God we don't have big audiences.
But our number one fan did pitch us some questions, so we thought we'd go ahead and answer those select questions.
Better late than never.
Yay! So the first one is the best book we've read so far this year. What's the best book you've read so far this year?
Okay, so there's a bit of a tie. Immediately starting off this by cheating.
We should maybe mention before we get too far into this, we're both big cheaters. Okay, go on.
Okay, so it's sort of a tie between Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, which I believe I have discussed in previous episodes. Not in depth, because Gabby doesn't want any spoilers.
Correct. You mentioned it very briefly, and you definitely brought it up in your newsletter.
Oh, yeah, yes. It was definitely the best book of the month for...
whatever month that was.
June, I believe? Maybe May, but definitely... Anyway, I think it was May. Anyway. So Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher it's sort of a modern fairy tale in that it doesn't retell any fairy tales, but it does use a bunch of the tropes and archetypes that you see in traditional fairy tales. So there's an old crone / hag who has all these magic secrets and stuff. The main character is a third-born sibling, and she's a princess. But, like, it's all modernized. So even though, like, she is the third-born princess...
I didn't realize it was modern.
No, it's also still, like, a fairy tale sort of setting.
Okay.
Where, I mean, there's, like, the North Kingdom and the South Kingdom, and then they are the Harbor Kingdom.
But it's a secondary world.
It's a secondary world,
okay.
yeah. But it's a very recognizable sort of place where she grew up in a harbor town. Her sisters, both of them, because one of them dies early on. That's not a spoiler.
I know.
It's like
it's
page
on.
6.
It's on. I think it's also on the cover.
Okay, so the oldest sister marries the prince of the North Kingdom and then dies, and then the second sister marries him too. And
marries the same dude?
Same dude, because it's an alliance thing. Like, the North Kingdom and the South Kingdom both want to take over the Harbor Kingdom.
Yes.
I know. And so the main character's mother is this, like, political dynamo who arranges these marriages and who keeps both of these armies from taking over the Harbor Kingdom. But she's also a stepmother. She's the king's second wife. And she's super ruthless, which plays into the, like, traditional evil stepmother thing. But also she loves her daughters. She really loved the first daughter, who wasn't, like, biologically hers. So there's this balance between the evil stepmother trope and, like, the mother who's trying to take care of her children. So, like, stuff like that. I loved it. I read it twice. I read it once.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole plan was to, like, hand it off to Gabby, like I usually do.
But nope.
And she came over, and I was like, no, you can't have it yet. I'm going to reread it. So that was super fresh, and I read it twice. But I also really, really freaking loved The League of Gentlewomen Witches by India Holton. See, it's been so long. And I read it, and I was immediately like, I'm going to reread this as soon as I can. And that was it like March? It's been many moons. And I still haven't reread it. But it was amazing. It was just this lovely, like, it's technically a romance, but it's also an adventure story with pirates who fly houses instead of boats in the ocean.
Yay!
And it's about, like, making friends and growing into someone that you are proud to be.
Aww.
I know, it's super heartwarming and just really lovely. And I haven't reread it, and so it's not fresh. But, like, those two, and I, like, when I do reread it, I will be able to compare which of the two that I love more. But until that happens, they're tied.
So it seems like it's easier for you to choose favorites.
Yes. I mean, I feel like you've had a much more fruitful year in terms of books that you just adored.
Maybe. It's hard for me to pick one. It's easy for me to kind of, like, group things. Like, some things, like, clearly occupy a tier together.
Yes.
And then it turns into, like, how do I choose one? That's just ridiculous.
Which, prior to this year, I'd be in that same boat. But I feel like I've read a lot of, like, they're good books.
Yeah, this year, even, like, with my trouble selecting a favorite, like, I had to scroll through a lot of,
I think, because I had a really rough January. I know you remember that. I know I've mentioned it on this thing. Like, it was a rough January. And I think I've been sort of, like, really burned out since then without noticing. Because in the last, 2 or 3 weeks, I have started reading a bunch of urban fantasy books.
Yay.
Which, in the introductory episode, I was like, that's, like, my first love. But, like, I've definitely moved on and grown past it.
Yeah,
but, like, turns out, when my brain needs brain candy, I return to urban fantasy. They are... I mean, like, they're not, like, amazing books, but, like, they're everything I need.
Yes. I was thinking about that yesterday while I was editing, because I was listening to old segments, and you were talking about all the urban fantasy books that you were just popcorn, just chowing down on recently. And I was remembering back, it was, like, one of our first episodes.
I think it was
you
the introductory one.
And you were like, yeah, that was easily my favorite at the time, and then, like, but you read too much.
And part of
it's funny
it...
how those comfort genres work.
Right? Part of it is that, at that point, I'd been reading a lot of older, traditionally published urban fantasy. So, like, Rochelle Mead and can't even remember the other ones. But, like, stuff that had been really popular in, like, 2008.
Right.
When I was first introduced to urban fantasy, and it got super popular. But lately, I've been reading a lot of independently published urban fantasy, and so it's all modern stuff,
and more currently published.
Yes, more
is probably
currently
part of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
But that's sort of what I meant. Is that, like, they follow all the tropes and fads of today, and because they're independently published, they are more focused on the trope, so that, like, you write a book and then you can tell your audience, like, this is what you can expect from my work. If you like these things, you will like my book. Please buy it. And so it's really easy to find stuff I like.
Yay!
And it's not as much of a risk because, well, the CP Writer books I was telling you about before we started recording, those I bought in paperback. But a lot of them, they're, like, fairly cheap.
Oh, right.
Ebooks?
This is how you manage your risks.
Yes. Yes. If it
Can't relate.
Mm-hmm.
$30 hardbacks.
Oh my god. Can't. I do it occasionally.
I do it often.
I am a little more gun shy about $30 books because, like, how many hours am I actually going to spend reading it, right? Like, I know. You read slower, it's fine.
And that makes it okay.
It sure does. Also, I feel like you are way more susceptible to, like, the aesthetic of book covers.
Yes.
Whereas I'm just like, whatever. If it's an ebook, then I don't have to figure out where to shelve it.
That's true. If I only operate ebooks, it would be a lot easier for me to control myself.
Mm-hmm. Sort of, because I am signed up for BookBub.
Oh yeah, BookBub's a problem.
Which, if y'all don't know, it is a service that authors can go to pay BookBub to send out newsletters to be like, hey, this ebook is on sale for $2. And it's apparently very expensive for authors to get a BookBub.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Several $100.
Wow.
I know. But BookBub has dozens of thousands of people that they can send these ads, coupons, deals, whatever they're called. Emails, basically, to readers, and that it translates into sales.
Digests is what I was thinking.
Digests. That's a good... I like that. That works. So if you did more ebook reading, I mean, I spend so much money on those $2 deals, and then my e-reader is just full.
So even though
Perpetually.
I'm not a huge ebook reader, I used to do the BookBub thing, and I would
It's
scroll
so-
down to the free ones, and I would just, and because they were free, I'd be like, even just like one aspect of this is appealing, I will just
Passing
get it. I will get it.
interest,
I'll
yeah.
get it. I'll get it. And like, either I'll like it or not. And I have hundreds of those from back when I was doing this like every day.
Yeah. That's how I did it for a while.
Have I read any of them?
2, 3.
Maybe. But they are still sitting in an account somewhere.
Somewhere. Oh.
Or on my Kindle, or... Yeah. And then I realized that was becoming a problem and I wasn't reading any of them, so I stopped. I unsubscribed from BookBub to try and control myself. But I don't think I ever bought anything off of BookBub.
After Book Crawl, where I was like, okay, I need to get my books under control. Quick before the next siren theme is announced. So, at the end of Book Crawl, I didn't unsubscribe because I'm like not ready to cut that line yet. Yeah, the umbilical cord yet. But I did move it to weekly. And then the emails become so long that there's like a click here to see the full message, and I don't click.
That's actually what helped me unsubscribe, because all the free ones were below that, and I was usually too lazy to click it. So for a while, I was just like not even opening the emails, because I knew that the free ones wouldn't be visible anyway. So then I just was like, well...
I do put an alert on the books that I know that I want, so if those particular ones ever go on sale, I'll get a separate email for those.
And now I don't need to, because you email me, or text me when
I
that
know.
happens, and then I just know, and then it's fine.
I get excited. I have to share with someone.
All that to come back to...
Oh, yeah.
Our favorite books of the year so far. It's going to steer this back around.
Wow, we went pretty far afield.
So, I think we went on this tangent because you were, I assume, going to point out that you've been reading a lot of these urban fantasy popcorn fictions, but none of them would necessarily make the top of your best book I've read this year type of thing. Was that where you were headed with this? Or were you going to mention?
I mean, if we... Well, yes. I can talk about that at length. But I think if we go a little further back in what we were talking about, it was that you had more favorite books to pick from.
Oh, yes.
Whereas I mean, those two, The League of Gentlewomen Witches by India Holton and Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, those two stand out.
Oh, okay.
As both highly enjoyable and well written.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you have an honorable mention, though.
I do have an honorable mention. I really, really loved the violent and heartwarming Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston, I think. Yeah. And it is both one of the goriest books I've ever read in my life, but like in a really good way, and turned out to be like really heartwarming. And I read it back in January, so it was just so wonderful to be in the midst of it. Yeah, it was perfect. The right level of violence, the right level of like enjoyment, and oh, I'm doing this for my family, therefore I will torture these people.
I do now have a hard copy of that too, so one day
I'm gonna get to it. I feel like you might have an issue with some of the violence.
Maybe.
But
usually there is a needle to thread here when it comes to violence and what I'm okay with. Vengeance helps when it's like when the motivation is pure and fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We will just have to see if you like it.
Because I mean, like, CQL is very violent.
Is it?
People are bodies are dropping left and right.
Really? I didn't realize.
People's limbs are getting hacked off.
And it's CQL for those.
Yes, is Chin Ching Ling, which is, in America, is The Untamed, which is a Chinese drama that's based on a online novel called Mo Dao Zushi. And they're now being released as novels by Seven Seas Press.
Oh,
7 Seas.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they've been releasing all of her, the author, whose name I'm blanking on, but it's abbreviated MXTX, is... They're releasing all 3 of her big online novels as hard copies.
She must be making bank.
I hope so. She deserves it so much. Anyway, I have a very minor obsession with the QL, which is the abbreviation of the Chinese name for the
Untamed.
The Untamed, which is the same drama. It's not like an Americanization of the drama. It is the Chinese drama released in the U.S. under that name.
With subtitles.
Yes. I do not know Mandarin at all. So,
but like instead of being dubbed, is what I mean.
Oh yeah, it is not dubbed. I don't think I can handle that. I never watch anything dubbed.
Really?
I simply can't do it. Like, it confuses me when I sit down to watch a Miyazaki film with someone who's used to watching them in English, because I forget that they're dubbed.
Really?
And most people, I think, watch them dubbed.
I did.
And I'll sit down and watch them, and I'm like, what is this?
What is happening?
This is not what I thought we were doing. What's happened to their voices? I'm confused. Yeah, because I grew up watching everything just subtitled.
So interesting.
And so now it really confuses me to try and see English voices over lips that are clearly not saying those words.
And you have the same trouble when they're animated for like Miyazaki?
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of that may have more to do with that I'm used to it now, and that's how I grew up watching them, so it just weirds me out.
Subtitles are a relatively new thing for me. Mostly because, like, it's really hard to understand these mush-mouth actors. And, like, the music is always so much louder than the...
Yeah. And the ads, so I don't like turning
oh my god, the
TV
ads
up.
are so noisy. Anyway,
we're going off on a lot of tangents for this. Anyway.
This is why we haven't answered these questions before, because we can't stay on track.
You're not listening to us because you're looking for efficiency.
That's true.
You're listening to us because you think we're hilarious and adorable, and we'll talk about anything for an hour to entertain ourselves. What is it? You said no one is as entertaining to us
as us.
As us.
I got her a little plaque I saw it. We were at Kohl's or something, and it was one of those, like, home, like, things you hang on the wall, and I was like, yes, no one. I mean, like, I'm sure Laura loves us. She is our number one fan, but, like, we get a lot out of this ourselves.
Okay, so those were your best books this year. I had a problem choosing best books, but I did land on one, and then I just have like 10 million honorable mentions. I think I've decided that my favorite so far this year is Light from Uncommon Stars by Ryka Aoki. And I've blabbed about that before on a previous episode, and you're reading that now.
Yeah, I'm about 100 pages in, and it's really, really well written and very enjoyable. It's one of those ones, I was telling my friend this on a car trip, and part of this is that the scenes are so very short, but, like, one of the things that I noticed while I was reading is that, like, there was no period in which it took me to fall back into the story. Like, there was no time it took until I was, like, fully immersed and, like, unaware of what was happening around me. It happens instantaneously. It's like when you pass out instantly. There's no, like, falling asleep time. You are in this book. And it is really good. Anyway, keep going. I want to talk about that in a little, but...
Oh, okay. So that's where I landed on my favorite, but I have 3 categories of honorable mentions. One is honorable mention, they were very well-rounded.
In that they were well-written and you really enjoyed them?
Yeah. Because then there's honorable mention high quality and honorable mention high enjoyment.
Yes.
Which isn't to say that...
There's no overlap.
Correct. But there's definitely somehow that's where they're falling in this Venn diagram in my head. But anyway, the well-rounded ones that I want to honorably mention are Gifting Fire by Alina, which I've brought up before.
Right. That's the one with feathered dragons.
Feathered dragons, and very excellent vengeance scene to her mother-in-law, which I lived for. Never Have I Ever by Isabel Yap, which I've also discussed before, I think. That's a collection of short stories. A really diverse series of short stories, like incredible range of like
from everything to like
so different from the next one.
Super dark gothic to like very lighthearted romance.
Yes. Just
excellent.
Very excellent.
Excellent collection. And I think it's definitely been nominated for a bunch of stuff. I don't know if the awards have been given out yet, but like I think it was
It is a World Fantasy Award finalist, a British Fantasy Award finalist, a Ladies of Horror Fiction Award winner, an NYPL Best Books for Adults, and the Crawford Award shortlist.
Well, so everybody loved it.
It wasn't just me.
As of recording, most of those awards haven't actually been given out yet, so we don't know who won.
Nope.
She's just a finalist for a bunch of stuff.
Seems like it. Although I don't know when that webpage was last updated, I guess. But it's the Small Beer Press webpage, so I would hope they are on top of it.
Yeah.
Oh, just kidding. That's like from February 2021. Okay, well, I can't find a more updated list than that about the awards, so hopefully that just means she's about to win. Okay. So, and then Serpent Mage by Kate Elliott, which was a little novella that she released, I think, this year?
I have no memory of what that recently. One's about.
It's about a lamplighter in this world, like magic lamplighter, in this world where magic is like broken down into elements. And the political situation is interesting because she's basically an indentured servant because the magic happy monarchy was overthrown, and now there's this virtue communism kind of system in place where it's like a council and they like have rules in place, and magic is a sign that you're not virtuous and you're possessed by demons and all this stuff. So people who are born with magic are like defaulted into indentured servitude, and it's this whole messed up thing. But there's this rebel faction trying to like reinstill the monarchy, because this was a relatively recent revolution and like within a generation. So she grew up in this new system and basically kind of gets kidnapped by these monarchist rebels.
This is amazing.
Yes. The setup was so good, and I'm really upset that it was only a novella. But it was, I don't know that I've ever, or very rarely, seen a fantasy political setup where there is no clear
Good
guy, bad guy setup. Because as it goes through the thing, like, at first it's like, oh, these people rescued her from indentured servitude, they value her for her skills, and and she's forming these new relationships, but it becomes very clear very quickly, because it's a novella, that they have their own flaws and biases, and there's not really any good ultimate political situation. And then you get, like, little tidbits of where she comes from, what her family was like, because they selected her because her family was executed by the current government, so they think that she'll be sympathetic to their cause, and there's this whole, like, it's a very interesting setup, and you like everyone who it's not really it's kind of a heist. They have to go, like, heist a baby.
That's called kidnapping?
Well, the current government's gonna murder the baby.
Oh, shit.
So it's like kidnapping to prevent baby being murdered, so...
Infanticide.
Infanticide.
I have all the big words for you.
Yes, thank you. So that's a whole thing. So there's just, like, a lot, and it was really good.
And then
It was so well executed. I was really worried. There was, like, one particular thing. It took me a minute to figure out that that's what it was. Like, it was doing that very deliberately, like, setting up that these new people, this almost found family she's trying to form, just, like, isn't worse than the situation she's left by no, like, they're all good and you like them, but they just, like, they have their own agenda, they have their own goals, and those aren't necessarily aligned with hers. Anyway, it was really good!
I need to read this. You should bring it over next time.
I got libraried it.
Oh no!
But I read it for the bingo, and I liked it, so I'll probably just buy it. So when I buy it, I'll throw it at you.
Have we explained bingo?
I mean, we explained it a year ago. I have that on our list, too.
Okay.
So
we'll get to
bingo.
it. Yeah.
We are in the middle of another year of Mysterious Galaxy Bingo, and we sort of summarized it again in the last episode.
Okay.
I think.
That's what I was asking.
Anyway. So yes, so those were the well-rounded honorable mentions. The high-quality honorable mentions that were maybe heavier than I would normally, like, full-heartedly enjoy were Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller, which was incredible and everyone should read it, but also it is very relevant and...
very topical.
Very topical on multiple topics.
Yep.
And yeah, so then it had a killer whale.
And a polar bear.
Yeah.
But mostly the killer whale.
And mostly the killer whale. And then... Future Gabby here. My spoilery emotional distress over Blackfish City lasts until about the 29-minute and 40-second mark. So feel free to fast forward now to avoid those spoilers. And I will say this, the killer whale eats the polar bear.
Do they?
So, yeah. So
I don't remember that at all.
And, like, the variant... It's actually... Okay, I need to... This is my biggest... Not beef, but... And I wish I had it with me because I'm forgetting everyone's names. But the guy who's nano-bonded to the killer whale, whose name starts with K, got the shortest end of the stick in this book because he spends the first part of the book with his brain messed up because he's not near his polar bear. Finally meets back up with his polar bear. So he gets to think again.
Right.
And he's so happy because he's so happy, so much happier than anyone else for, like, the most of the second half of the book because his standards are so much, like, or his bar is so much lower because he's like, I've been miserable my whole life, my whole remembered life. I suddenly don't feel miserable. Like, yes, the world sucks, but I have my polar bear, I have my family, like, we can get through this. So he's just happy. And then at the end, the freaking the freaking killer whale kills his polar bear. So then he's back to being messed up. And I felt like that was really unfair, Sam, okay?
We have a complaint to lodge.
Officially signed complaint, but also it was really good. Okay, moving on. Oh, and I finished Mongrels, which we've talked about before. It's really good.
By Stephen Graham Jones.
Yes, by Stephen Graham Jones, thank you.
Horror werewolves.
Literary
horror werewolves.
Gross.
But also excellent.
Excellent.
And a gut punch of an ending.
Yeah.
You've got this 1,000-yard story going.
Remembering. So that's the thing with these ones is like
They're
they made
really
me feel
good, but they're not your happy place.
Go back and think about both of those a lot. But I definitely would not say they made me happy. Not how I would describe it. Anyway. And then we have the honorable mention High Enjoyment, which are Naomi Teitelbaum Ends the World by Samara Shanker, which I snagged an arc of.
So it's not actually out yet.
No. It comes out in September!
So go pre-order it.
So go pre-order it. It was adorable. It's a middle grade novel about a girl who, for her bat mitzvah, gets a mysterious package with a golem in it. And she and her very excellent posse of friends activate this golem, and it just wants to help. And she has to give it instructions so that it helps.
Oh dear.
And it is delightful and also a really interesting commentary on what you owe the world.
Ooh.
And serving, like acts of service. Anyway, it's really good and very fun, and everyone should go read it anyway. And then The Widow of Rose House by Diana Biller, which was just nonstop fun. Historical ghost story.
Yeah, there's a haunted house.
Yeah, there's a haunted house.
And
a scientist and a widow who just deserves all the happiness in the world.
yeah, who's had a rough go of it.
Yeah.
But she's renovating the house, right? I only sort of remember
Yes, she's kind of trying to, like, rehabilitate her image or whatever, and she wants to publish a book on interior design. So she bought this house, which she, like, encountered when she was a kid and, like, had this weird connection to, and decided that she was going to, like, rehabilitate its image in addition to, like, it's kind of, like, this interesting connection thing anyway. And then there are ghosts, and she has to bring in a scientist who's interested in ghosts to solve the ghost problem.
It's adorable.
It's adorable! So those are the best books so far this year. And I cheated by mentioning...
like 8.
All of them. Just all of them. The next question was best sequel we've read so far.
What was your best sequel?
My best sequel is Gifting Fire.
Oh, right.
By Alina
Obviously.
Boyden.
So I could cheat again because
Do
the
it. Cheat.
League of Gentlewomen Witches by India Holton
Right.
isn't actually a sequel, but it is a companion novel. It comes second in the timeline of this world.
Are there shared characters?
Yes.
Well, then it counts.
So that's the easy answer. But one of the urban fantasy things I'm reading is this series called The Sundance Books, which is, it's an imaginary truck stop town in the middle of the desert in Southern California. Like, sort of between San Diego and Phoenix.
Okay.
And it's urban fantasy. It's sort of small towns, therefore not really urban fantasy.
Right.
But there's like a tiger shifter and wolf shifters, and apparently there's a difference between wolf shifters and werewolves, which I know, I made that same face. Well, I will have to get into it some later date after some more research. Anyway, this is urban fantasy goodness. The first one I got on audiobook, and I just really enjoyed it. Both it and the second one. I enjoyed the audiobook because the main character is Afro-Latina, and the audiobook narrator very clearly spoke Spanish and could say all of those words properly.
That's always
Yeah, so I had all that in my head when I was reading the second one. And I actually enjoyed the sequel so much that I listened to the audiobook and then I bought the paperback.
Yay!
And they're just delightful stories. The first one's called Spiked, the second one's called Summoned, and there are 5 of them. By C.P. Ryder. R-I-D-E-R.
Have you gotten a hard copy of the first one yet? Do you plan to?
I don't have a hard copy of the first one, but I might buy one at a later date. Which I never do.
I was gonna say, you don't do
never
this.
get multiple copies.
But if it were me,
it's just...
it would drive me insane to have...
Well, I don't buy books if I don't plan on reading them. So if I've already read a book...
Oh, right.
So, maybe I'll start over and reread the whole series or
It
whatever.
is the year of
It
indulgences
is of
and
indulgences and rereads. And that's sort of where I've been. I listened to the second one, and then I read the second one, and then I read the third one, and now it's been several weeks, so I think I'll just read it again when I go back to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're fun books. The main character is a telepathic spiker, which I know. I think the
They're
author
just
made it up.
so good. Their telepathic abilities only kick in when they're playing volleyball, see? And then...
Okay.
and they spike the ball.
Yep.
Is that where this is going?
Yes.
And also they shift into a tiger.
No. The telepath and the tiger are two different people.
Oh, that's what I got wrong.
Okay, so a spiker is someone who can reach into somebody's brain and, like, drive a mental stake into it and they die. Yeah. So
I feel like there are easier ways to drive stakes into people.
not at a distance.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this chick is super dangerous, but, like, doesn't want to deal with the paranormal world, and so she just hides her abilities until the first book when everything goes terribly wrong, and she's trying to hide her secret, but also not get killed.
Is there, like, a stigma against people who can mentally
Right,
stab
and
you from a distance?
I feel like it's sort of a weird stigma, considering there are so many other, like, super dangerous paranormal creatures in these worlds, but, like...
Also, like,
But
we live in America. You can get a device that will shoot a tiny metal thing into you from a distance.
It's true. I hadn't even thought of that, but yes, it's very true.
So it seems a little... anyway.
And so, like, I guess part of the stigma is that they're usually telepaths as well. So, like, you can pull information from their brain and then kill them. Like, super efficient torturing, I guess?
Okay.
She would never.
Right.
Or at least in the first 3 books, she would never. We'll have to see. But that is the immediate assumption that everyone else in this world makes. And so, like, in the second book, they are summoned, quote unquote, by a wolf alpha in San Diego, which was a lot of fun. They stayed at, like, a B&B in Oceanside, which I have not looked up, but I bet is real.
Oh, like the actual B&B.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Oceanside is real.
Oceanside is definitely real.
We live
There are definitely B&Bs in Oceanside, but I bet the one they stayed at is also a real B&B.
We should look it up and stay there.
I should.
Okay.
So they're summoned by this alpha wolf shifter to San Diego who thinks he's being haunted by his ex-wife.
Aw, buddy.
And it's infinitely more complicated than that, but, like, that's the basics. And, you know, everything goes terribly wrong.
I would like to point out that if you got a hard copy of the first book,
You might read them.
I could borrow
I know. I have thought about that.
Are they at the library too?
No. I haven't looked, but I doubt it, because they're independently published, so
Right.
it's always harder to get those into libraries. But if we request it, they might get it. It would certainly help the author to get books in the library.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my...
Best sequel?
Yeah.
Okay. A new release you haven't read yet, but want to.
I'm gonna cheat again.
Yeah, you are.
So, I have not read the first book. But, like, it's a duology. The Malice duology by Heather Walter. And the premise is that it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling where the witch falls in love with the princess.
Oh, okay.
And the covers are super pretty, and they're big chonker hardbacks.
And it's Malice and...
The first one is Malice, the second one is called Misrule.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And Malice has been out for a while.
2 years or something.
Okay.
The paperback's out.
Right.
So it's been a while. But this Misrule came out this year.
They look very pretty together.
And they look so pretty together, and
Do you have them both?
I do have them both. And I have them both in hardcover, and I'm really looking forward to putting them on the shelf together. Probably next to my Serpent and Dove books. We will return to the Serpent and Dove books. And for anyone who doesn't remember the name, those are the books where I got really upset about the world building.
Yes.
Because France exists, but it doesn't in these books.
Right. These are by Shelby Mahurin.
Yes.
And they're, I think,
It's a
really
trilogy.
popular.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
it's
they are
trilogy.
fairly popular. YA fantasy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Malice.
Yes.
Okay. Although specifically, I guess, for this particular prompt, you're arguing that the release you haven't read yet, but you want to, is Misrule, which did come out this year.
Yes.
So...
Because I am looking forward to the whole
barely
duology.
cheating.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah.
So what we did for this is opened our pre-orders list.
We have a spreadsheet of pre-orders.
Yes.
Let's just...
And I think we've actually spent an episode talking through at least one of our pre-order orders.
I think so.
And it was so hard for me to choose because the whole point, like, I don't pre-order unless
you're
really
really looking forward
want
to it. Yeah.
So I just picked the one that came the most recently. It's freshest on my mind. It is the chunkiest, I think, of the books I pre-ordered.
It's
so there's
like
more
500 pages. It's a big book.
So it's like...
And it's hardcover, right?
Yeah, it's hardcover.
So it's even bigger.
It's gorgeous. So this came down to more as, like, there's more quantity-wise to look forward to, and that's what tipped me over the top. But it's A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Meadows, which is about something.
We don't know.
Every time I look it up, I'm like, yes, this is why I pre-ordered it. And then I immediately forget everything about it. Oh yeah, this is the one where they're from the two countries and one of them's super homophobic.
Yeah.
And it comes out that he's gay, and they're like...
The one from the
that's
prince from
fine.
the homophobic country
Yes.
is gay.
Yes.
And the arranged marriage parents from the
Yes.
non-homophobic country are like,
Like,
that's fine.
we
you
have
can marry
a
our
son.
son.
Yeah. And it just looks like 500 pages of adorableness, so yeah, that's mine.
And if you enjoy that one, I actually have 2 other books by Meadows.
I have their An Accident of Stars, which I've been meaning to read forever.
This one, the one I have, A Tyranny of Queens, I think it's either the first one. No, Tyranny of Queens is the second one. Reign of Stars?
Are you sure it's not An Accident of Stars? Which is the one I just said I...
Did you?
I did, yeah.
I was so focused on Queens.
You're clearly trying to remember yours while I was out here being like, is it this one?
It was
that
that
I
one.
that I already.
It is An Accident of Stars. But also
and A Tyranny of Queens.
I have them both.
Oh wow, how convenient for me.
I know. So you can read those if you want.
Yay!
I have not read them yet.
Oh.
They have been... Well, I mean, like, if you want to, you may borrow them.
Oh, well, yeah, but I had it in my head that you had read them and had opinions that were
Oh.
positive, which is why I have positive
No, but
vibes
I've
in my
heard
head.
wonderful things.
That may be why, okay. Okay, so that's our new release. We haven't read yet, but we want to. And then the last one that Laura pitched at us is most anticipated release for the second half of the year.
Right.
Which was difficult for me because I started flipping through my Goodreads TBR. First of all, which you cannot organize by published date. Second of all, we're already into 2023. Like, that's, as I hear about things, I add them to my TBR. But, like, so the top, it's in order of when I added it. So, like, I had to flip through all the 2023s to get to the second half of 2022. And then there's, like, other stuff mixed in there. Anyway, it was a whole thing.
Uh-huh.
But I just picked one of my pre-orders that hasn't come yet. Well, first of all, I'm going to cheat and say, again, Naomi, Teitelbaum, Ends the World, because
you just
by
loved
Samara
it
Shanker.
so much.
Because I loved it, and I am very much anticipating its actual release. So, in that sense, I'm not cheating. But... Spirit of the prompt, I am looking forward to A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexandra Rowland, which I think was originally due to come out earlier this year.
Oh, really?
And then got pushed to August. Maybe I should double check that that's actually still coming out this year before I... Anyway, what's yours while I look that up?
My most anticipated release for the second half of 2022 is probably The Whispering Dark by Kelly Andrew.
Oh yeah, with the cover.
The cover's super pretty. It's like purple with these, I think it's foxgloves? Flowers, like very vertical looking flowers. And the petals are all skulls.
It's very pretty.
It's very pretty. And it's a dark academia book, which I don't usually enjoy.
Right.
Not usually my thing. But this one, the main character is a deaf girl who goes to a school where they teach you to slip between parallel worlds. And I am here for parallel worlds.
I'm also, you'll have to let me know if
I know.
you think how dark it actually ends up being, because...
Yeah. I'm a little not hesitant. What's the word when you
Wary?
concerned, tentative, something like that. Where I am concerned it won't be as amazing as I hope it will be. Because it is
on the cover.
I know,
and
based
the
on the
prompt.
cover, and yeah, but also based because like the dark academia thing. Like I haven't even read the Naomi Novik books,
Right.
and those are apparently very good.
Yeah, now I'm just like trying to think of other dark academia books I may have read, and I can't really think of any.
There's a
Naomi.
fairly
I know
large
it's a huge
subgenre these days.
And I'm trying to think if I just have been avoiding it because I tried The Magicians and hated it. I
the
haven't
Lev Grossman
read-
books, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read Naomi Novik's yet, but I do want to because I do love Naomi Novik.
I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't
like,
know either.
I just find that I tend to get very impatient at the beginning of the story when they're like, this is how the scheduling works, and these are my classmates, and I don't get along with my roommate. Like,
So my favorite part of every school year was when we got our schedules for the year.
why am I not
So
surprised?
that really, like, nostalgically, like, re-inflames that feeling for me
Okay.
when I read academia
That was
fantasy.
my least, like, I
And they're like,
honestly
ooh, yes,
could not care.
I want to learn about what all the classes are and what my typical school day would be like, and I want to learn about what the homework's gonna be. And
Okay, I just feel like I should mention, we do have a spreadsheet for when our pre-orders come out this year, but, like, I have not updated my end in months. I opened it up
I
to
haven't
look...
updated mine in...
Well, I opened it up to looks to prep for this episode, and your side of the spreadsheet is, like, all green when everything comes out, and mine has clearly not been touched recently.
I don't remember the last time I poked that particular tab, actually. I've been very wrapped up in my Mysterious Galaxy Summer Bingo tab.
That
is up to date.
That is a complex spreadsheet.
Thorough.
It's very thorough. It's also color coordinated with tables.
Yay!
Okay, so your most anticipated...
Oh, I did look it up, and A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexandra Rowland is due up by the end of August.
Excellent.
It is also supposed to be at Shanker, I think.
Oh, really?
Goodreads says 500-something pages, so...
Do you remember the premise?
It's,
I know, I ask such hard questions.
It's the CQL personality dynamic in that one of them's like a reticent,
So it's like a
cold...
fantasy romance thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Goblin Emperor, this is, like, every time I see the Goblin Emperor meets blank, I'm like, oh, yes, and I will have that, thank you. Because Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison is one of my all-time faves. This one is The Goblin Emperor Meets Magnificent Century, and I don't know what that means, but it's a queer central romance unfolding in a fantasy world reminiscent of the Ottoman Empire, and there's a shy prince, and...
Ottoman Empire, that's
he has
cool.
a bodyguard who's cold and seems to just tolerate him, and I'm like...
When in fact, they are both pining for each other.
Obviously! And the prince has the skill where he can tell whether coins are counterfeit by tasting them.
That's weird.
Yes.
So you have to lick
Oh,
coins?
touch taste. Touch taste precious metals with their fingers.
Okay. I was gonna say, money is one of the most disgusting things you could possibly lick.
That's just asking for a plague.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I'm really...
That sounds like a very you book.
And I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast even, but Alexandra Rowland is supposed to be a big CQL fanfic author.
Really?
And I don't know for sure if this is like one of those that got...
Like the serial numbers?
Yeah! Or if it's something just completely from a blank slate.
Oh,
but
that's
I believe that she is a big CQL fanfic.
Your friend Miranda is the one who has read all of the CQL.
Yeah.
So if you get her to read a taste of...
A Taste of Golden Iron?
Golden Iron. So if you get her to read the traditionally published one...
She'll be like, this sounds familiar.
These words are the exact same. I remember this sentence.
She could probably, if I still haven't tried to do this, and I think I mentioned I would try to do it last time I brought this up on the podcast. I keep meaning to be like, hey, who's Alexandra Rowland, Miranda? And watch her be like, it's this person who wrote this fanfic, and I've been telling you for months to read them, and I don't know why you still haven't. But I have not tried to poke that bear yet, but...
Because you're liable to get your finger snapped off.
But yes, so... Before we wrap this up, now that we've answered all of Laura's questions, we love you, Laura! Since we did bring it up, we should make sure to mention we are in the middle of the Mysterious Galaxy Summer Bingo.
Summer bingo. This is their second year doing it, and they put out a bingo sheet for books. And so each what is it called? Not a placard. Spot.
Oh, spot.
Square.
Square.
I completely blanked on normal words.
We got infanticide. No, we got square.
Oh God, help me. So every square has a different prompt, like a book that is popular on Book Talk.
Oh yeah.
Or a book that features a dragon.
I don't think either of us are on TikTok.
I am not, but I did Google Book Talk books.
Yes.
Got a nice long list. A band book.
A what book?
Band.
Oh, a band, sorry.
Oh, you thought I meant like rock and roll, huh?
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember that spot.
Band
what am I going to
as in-
read for that?
It has been prohibited by government officials.
Boo, hiss boo.
Censorship. A punny title,
Oh, yeah.
for which I read Scales and Sensibility, which you will love.
Yay! Do you have a hard copy?
Nope. Ebook.
Well, will I love it? Who
You
knows?
will.
Will I ever get around to reading it?
Maybe Christmas.
Aww.
I know. And so, if you complete one row on the bingo sheet, then you get a 20% off coupon at Mysterious Galaxy!
For one book.
For one book. What? Not a whole order.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Boo.
If you do blackout bingo, then you get entered into a raffle for a $100 gift card.
Woo!
And there's this thing where if you buy a book from Mysterious Galaxy during the summer bingo session dates, and then you read it as part of your bingo sheet, then you get an extra entry into the raffle.
Yes,
And
that's
so-
where they get you.
Yes. So last year, I did like 7 books that way.
Yeah.
But whoever won the raffle,
Oh, yeah.
every single book they read for
Mhm.
bingo, they had bought specifically for bingo.
Right. And I
I sort of felt like
I'm not that wealthy.
Yeah. And so I was very proud of having the 7 extra entries
Yeah.
or whatever.
I
But,
went
there
after...
was no point.
Because my approach was the reverse, and I went at the end, and I was like, I really liked this, and this, and this when I read them.
Oh.
And then bought all those, so that was that's when I got the entire Shadow of the Fox trilogy.
Right.
And I got Lycanthropy and Other Chronic Illnesses by Kristen O'Neill's Lycanthropy.
And Julie
Kagawa.
Kagawa.
Yeah, is
The Shadow of the Fox
Yeah.
trilogy. Anyway. I felt like at the end of that, there was no real point
Right.
in getting extra raffle entries.
Statistical. It depends on if someone is that nuts again
Right.
this year.
And I'm just assuming someone is.
Probably. But surely, if we do this enough times, one of us.
Well.
I mean, between the two of us, that's like
2
half
entries?
of a nutso person.
Oh, yeah,
you know what
that's
I mean?
fair.
Like,
Yeah.
if you
It
get
was last
7 and
year.
I get 7.
My whole goal for this summer is to not buy a single
Right.
book. And we have another spreadsheet for that, which I am keeping track of. But I can very easily hit every single square without buying a
Oh,
single
yeah.
book.
That was never in question. We have plenty of books.
It wasn't even that hard to think of specific titles even.
Right.
Just what is on hand that I have been meaning to get to.
Yeah. I ended up somehow with a pile of library books, which I don't do to myself super often unless I have a very
A stressful day at work.
No, because library books, I usually don't go and browse the library. I usually will go and put something on hold. So it's things like some Japanese language learning books, and I got Jade City because my little brother's reading it, and I was like, I'm gonna catch up so we can read it together. And now apparently coffee's on the line.
What?
He was like, want to make it interesting, and I was like, it won't be that.
Like a bet?
Yes. Who can finish
Oh my god.
the trilogy first.
The whole trilogy?
Yes.
Oh.
And I was like, that won't be very interesting because you're halfway through Jade War. And I just started Jade City, and I don't even have a copy of Jade War yet.
Is that the second book?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, you're nuts. And also, I read very slowly. But also, sure, enjoy your coffee.
Does he read fast?
I feel like he does. I feel like he just blazed through the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's hard to tell whether he reads quickly or if he's had an unusual amount of free time because...
Isn't this the brother who just moved?
Yeah, he just moved, but his job only started like a week or two ago. So there was a block of time in there where he was between jobs and they were settling in, but I also think he just reads much quicker than I do. So it's not going to be a very exciting competition, but I'm always happy to give my little brother some coffee.
A housewarming.
Yeah, there we go. Housewarming gift for when they buy a house. So, and then, like, I have a book club going with a group of high school friends with Laura that we meet every week for game night, and then we turned it into a impromptu book night, so we've been reading, like, An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good, so I got both of those from the library, and then, like, while I was there, Helene Thurston?
An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good. That's such a good title.
Such a good title. I think the original language on that one is Swedish.
Oh, really?
And it's translated. Yeah, Helene Thurston. It's translated by Marlene Delargy. It wasn't quite what I expected. I think our consensus was it wasn't quite what we expected. We thought they'd be more fun. And vengeful. It's like about an elderly woman who like commits various murders for various reasons. Yeah, it's like a reverse murder mystery.
How could that not be fun?
So it's ended up being less we thought it was gonna be like more like morally aligned.
Reverse
reasons,
cozy mystery.
Kind of. Okay. We thought she'd have better reasons for murdering people, is really what this comes down to.
Okay.
And it ended up being more like someone vaguely got on her nerves, or she has like a petty grudge against someone for whatever reason. So it wasn't quite what we were expecting, so it was kind of like an adjustment. But they are like really short, so we read those.
Minimal time investment.
So anyway, I ended up with a pile of these library books somehow. So I've been reading a lot of library books, which leads me to this trap of, well, now that I have library books, and I've read them, and I enjoyed them, I will go buy them. And Servant Mage was a library book, and I fully just impulsively was like, this has been on my TBR. I love Kate Elliott's Unconquerable Sun. The only reason I hadn't bought that already, because the premise sounded so good anyway, was because I didn't know it was going to be so short, and I didn't want to pay so much for a shorty. And
it's one of those Tor.com paperbacks, huh?
And I don't think those ever come out in paperback, which has really changed my mental calculus on when I acquire those.
Because when they're gone, they're gone. They're not like huge print runs.
I know. Like, I almost missed the Burning Roses.
I know.
But I did score one up. I think that one I ended up getting at Sirens. Anyway, that was a lot to say. It had nothing to do with anything. I don't remember. Oh yeah, so bingo. So we're in the middle of bingo now. I'll probably end up buying
a bunch of books.
Yes, because I buy after I read. You buy before you read.
I'm not going to buy any, but I still get book bug bad. So it's not like I'm not buying any books this summer.
Right,
but I haven't bought a single.
You're not going to Mysterious Galaxy and buying $30 books for the bingo.
Yes.
It's really what this comes down.
I mean, I wouldn't even buy a $30 book last year. Wolf and the Woodsman, remember?
That's true. Yeah. Oh, I remember.
I still think about buying it, but I'm not going to buy it
until
I'm ready to,
like...
Now. I know.
So...
The paperback.
So now you don't have to pay $30 for it.
But I'm not going to buy it until I'm ready to reread it. Because that's how my brain
So when I read it.
But you have your own copy.
Right.
Oh, you want to read it together.
I assumed you wanted to read it together. Like, I assumed that would be a trigger for... Well, I know for sure you wanted to reread Strange Practice when I get on that train.
Yes.
By Vivian Shaw. Wolf and the Woodsman is by Ava Reed. I don't remember if we said that. But yeah.
Yeah, that would be a fun
little reread.
So that's bingo? I'm down to single digits. They're 24 squares, and I am down to like 8.
I don't know if I'm down to single digits, but I'm getting there. I'm not far behind.
And I'm definitely, a lot of them are shorter. Like, there's one square where, like, the book has to be a minimum of 300 pages, and I hit that. But, like, I'm just not taking it anywhere near as seriously this year.
Right.
Like, the LGBTQ author I read a nonfiction book on self-publishing called Help, My Launch Plan Sucks.
Oh, yeah.
And it's by this pair of women who are branded as the Writing Wives. So, like, they're definitely LGBTQ.
Okay.
So, it's a very short nonfiction book.
Okay.
Which is definitely not what Mysterious Galaxy had in mind.
Right.
But
Well,
whatever.
25 books in not even 3 months is a lot
It is a lot.
to cram. So,
other
for
people,
working
it's a
adults. Okay. For people like Gabby.
No, it is a lot. Even when you read fast, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I have gotten a little distracted recently.
Yes.
But
so I've been doing a lot of novellas too. Novellas, a couple of graphic novels, I think.
yeah.
Oh, maybe I haven't done a graphic. I don't remember if I've done one yet.
One of the squares is a graphic
Yeah, one of the
novel.
squares is a graphic novel. Oh, you know what? I think I snuck a children's book in there. That's what I did.
Oh. But
but also I'm apparently going to read the entire Jade City trilogy, so I really shot myself in the foot on that one.
Well, I mean, that's your 300-page one. That's your sequel.
BIPOC author.
And yeah, and there you go.
Maybe. We'll have to see how my spreadsheet pans out.
Oh my god.
I live by my spreadsheet.
And it's not just like my spreadsheet is very simple. Like I listed a couple of titles for each one. And when I read one, I remove the extra titles and then I turn the cell green.
Mm-hmm.
You have this incredible table going where you list every title you've read and then you mark which squares it could apply to.
Yes.
And then you read, what is it, like 25, 30 books to make sure you've hit all of the squares?
Well, no.
And
no.
then
No.
there's a color coding. It's a very intricate spreadsheet.
So the reason is I'm going at this from a different direction. The direction I'm coming at this from is I kind of already have the books I'm going to read. I'm not making decisions based on bingo. I'm making decisions based on
what you feel
what
like
I'm
reading.
That and what's going on, like, book club is, I have, like, a fourth of a say in what we read on book club. We actually spin a wheel, and anyway, I'm doing, like, my language learning in the background. I'm reading books to nibblings. I'm apparently getting sucked into a 3-chunker competition with my little brother. So, so things just come up, and then I have my reading orders of library books, then Smack or other loaned books, and then my own, so I have a really hard time
prioritizing based on bingo prompts.
So, and to maximize the efficiency, given that these things that I know about myself and how my personality works, if I keep track of what categories are covered by which books, I can keep track of which categories I'm lacking. And so I can kind of steer it, in advance, and plan which books I need to cover, like which categories I need to cover with upcoming reads. But at the end, I can eliminate based on the books that fit the category. So if there is a book that only, for example, if there's a book that only applies to one category, then that one has to be locked into that spot. If it's the other way around, if there's a category that only is fit by one book, that's locked into that spot.
Right. So
it's kind of an efficiency problem. And as I'm saying it, it sounds not that efficient. But
it gives you way more choices.
Sure.
Well, I mean, it visualizes way more choices. Like, you don't have to be like, well, I could do this title or this title.
Right.
Which is what I'm doing. But that's fine.
But it is very nice for me that you're doing it your way, because then it's easier for me to be like, oh, I need to work a banned book in here somehow, and you're like, I just read this for my banned book, and I'm like, okay, I'll read this for my banned book, so...
It helped that I left you alone in my house for a week.
Yes, that did really help. Helped a lot.
I'm so glad.
So yeah.
That's been another episode of Infinite TBR.
Here's hoping
that... What did we talk about in the first one? Here's hoping that you...
have a friend to ask you book questions.
Yeah, that you have a friend who will let you talk about books forever.
Yes.
Which is like...
And listen to you every month talk about books for an hour.
Yeah. Yay!
This has been another episode of Infinite TBR. You can find us on our Twitter at Infinite TBR.
And we are individually on Twitter as @WhatSmackSaid and @Gabalodon, which is like Megalodon, but Gab in the front of it. And you can find all our show notes at infiniteTBR.com. If you have book recommendations for us or questions you want answered during the podcast, feel free to email us at itbrshelf@gmail.com.